Welcome to episode 211 of Destination Linux. Whether you're brand new to the open source or a guru of Sudo, this is the podcast for you. My name is Michael, and with me today are the top GameStop stock advisors to Reddit, Noah, Jill, and Ryan's.
Diamond hands to the moon.
But I'm not a shark.
Hey, look at this mug, Michael. Look at this mug.
Nice.
Diamond hands right there.
Of course.
There we
Of
go,
course.
Ryan.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, so we have a lot of messages and stuff from the community about like starting their own business and what to do inside of that. So we just wanted to talk about that. And this week we're going to have some fun and play out our own startup company using only open source software. Whether you have your own business or plan to start one in the future, this is the segment for you that you don't want to miss. We're also covering a new decentralized app that's made its way to the market, and we'll be covering the Sudo vulnerability that hits every major Linux distro out there, so you definitely want to stick around for that. And we also have tips, tricks, and software picks, of course. All this and so much more coming up right now on Destination Linux. This week we've got a great show for you, but before we get into it, we'll have a quick PSA for you about the Sudo vulnerability that happened this week. And this issue affects just about every Linux distribution, so you definitely want to listen it up because the version number for each of the distros is different for the patch. So you need to check out the article that was written on Front Page Linux by Eric, the IT guy from the Sudo show. He talked about the overall thing, explaining what happened with the vulnerability, and also there's a table that lists what version number you need to check to see if you have for your individual distribution. All the major distros are listed there because unfortunately they're all different. So the normal thing that you see in the most blog posts is not going to be accurate to most people. So be sure to check that out. And there's also links to get more details depending on what version of the distro you have. So be sure to check that out.
So you go to frontpagelinux.com and you can see that article and info. But I just got to stop for a second on this PSA and say, for 10 years, this has existed. I mean,
Yeah.
for 10 years.
Well, I mean, 10 years, it was there that it was discovered, and then the same day it was fixed. But it was there technically that people didn't know about it for 10 years, yes.
So we've got the smash your keyboard, get past Sudo bug that was fixed, and now we have the...
No, you past the screen locker thing.
Past the screen locker, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a little different. There have been bugs.
It was a
past.
dude and his kids that eventually got this cracking, right?
Well, for the screensaver thing, but the Sudo thing was by Qualys Inc. They figured it out and did a bunch of stuff. But this is, the information about what you need to do is on frontpagelinux.com. So check that out, and you should be good to go. You probably already have the update, and everything is probably already fixed. If you have an update, you definitely should do it like right now.
Patch your system.
Yeah, you should definitely patch your system. But the full details are on frontpagelinux.com.
Very cool.
Yay.
This week we received an email from Joel. Joel writes in and says, "Howdy from Texas. DLN Quad Force. Lately, I've been working with my uncle and grandfather, both professional programmers, on a hobby project, a simple budgeting app for tracking finances. It's written in JavaScript with SVELTE framework. Recently, we've started looking at how to synchronize data between different devices. We've made cursory brushes over AWS, Azure, Firebase, etc. And of course, DigitalOcean is an option, though we haven't looked into that in detail. Anyway, I was wondering if there's any way to sync the data in some form of matrix. Clearly, using a chat app to sync data is not a good idea, but I wondered if the idea of using a decentralized method of communication had any merit. Obviously, this is Noah's area of expertise, and Jill with enough computers to start her own cloud company, and Ryan does a lot of oh wait, that's Michael. Never mind. Anyway, good job at the NSA. Keep up the good work and long active sitting because it helps you live longer, I guess. Joel.
I like
thanks,
Joel.
Yep.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too.
He's awesome.
It
Thanks,
does.
Joel, for writing in. I guess let's start here. Yes, you can sync messages across Matrix, and indeed, there are certain. One of the reasons that the Matrix protocol was written to be simplistic and to be understandable by anybody and use already established transport stuff is because it works and it accomplishes the job. And so certainly we featured an app on Ask Noah last week that is called Delta Chat. Delta Chat is essentially Telegram, but it uses email as the back end. So you send email messages back and forth, but it obviously only uses the body. and presents it in the chat bubble style that you would expect from, a Signal or Wire or Telegram, those kinds of things. And so those simple types of protocols, because they're so well understood and because they're so prolific, can be used for all sorts of different things. And indeed, if you look at any ticketing system, a lot of the push notification systems that is used by a lot of places is email. A lot of the alerting systems that we use at the radio station to tell us when a transmitter's off the air is by email, because it's a universal protocol. And so certainly you could adapt that for 2021 and say, I'm going to do this with Matrix. Now I did a little bit of digging, and there is a project that somebody in the Matrix community has written. And it's basically a very CLI based simple script for generating Matrix payloads. And so the idea is you run the script and pass through whatever message you want, and that message payload can be delivered in any way you want it to be delivered. So it can be delivered to a chat. There are other projects that present it in the way of like a web UI, like as if it were Twitter or Facebook or those kinds of things. And so, there's a whole bunch of people that are experimenting with just that. Now, like you say, you're not going to get a lot of support from Matrix proper when that's not the direction they're going, right? They're building a messaging app. And so to the extent that your payload is messages, then it will work well. And to the extent that you want to expand beyond messages, it may not work well. But certainly a great way to get started. And you can the nice thing about Matrix is you can just go download the script, write your script to say, here's the thing I want to deliver. I want to transfer from this place to this place, and let Matrix handle the rest for you. What do you guys think?
Well, there's other protocols out there that Jill and I were discussing before the show that you could use in place of this that exist that are also decentralized. And because I love the idea, by the way, what you're saying about go out there, play, tweak, make some fun things, but he's talking about financial data. And I feel like you want to use something that's really made, in my mind, if you're serious about creating a financial app like that, that's made for moving files and things like maybe IPFS or some type of BitTorrent type scenario. Jill, what was the one that you recommended?
Yeah, Sync Thing. I really like that because it is based off the BitTorrent network, and it's been around for years. It was one of the first to allow you to share.
So what's cool is, obviously, with everything in Linux, and Noah was the perfect person to address this question to, yes, you can do it, but I think there's probably better options out there for file sharing, especially if you're dealing with something serious. But if you're just playing, then sure, why not?
Is it file sharing, or is he just so? For example, if it was, hey, we have these Excel sheets that we move across from point A to point B, I would entirely agree with you. C file or sync thing or something like that. However, if you're writing an app and I go into the grocery store and I say I spent $26.95. I put $26.95, and then it asks me for the next field. It says, "What'd you buy?" And I say, "I bought a case of bubbly," and that was it, because that's cost $26.50. So I put that into my little app, and I track that as a budget item. If it's 2 or 3 pieces of text, and the goal is to get that information in an encrypted form from a mobile app over to a backend server, and then we're going to do something with it or display it in a different way or whatever. Again, you get the encryption built in by Matrix, you get the message built in by Matrix.
Definitely secure.
So it's just, it would depend on what your app is doing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Joel, thank you for sending in this awesome question. And I'm so happy Noah was here to help answer this one. And we love hearing from our worldwide community. So what we want you to do is get your official DLN mug. You have to have one of those. If you don't, you got to ask yourself what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, coffee is not as good without that mug.
That's true.
Yeah.
Been scientifically proven by DL scientists. Fill it with some coffee, sit down on the nearest stool, and send us an email to comments@destinationlinux.org. And if you want to join the community discussions like this one, then join the DLN forum by going to dlnforum.com, where you can say things like diamond hands and to the moon for GME stock.
Naturally.
This episode of Destination Linux is brought to you by DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean recently announced their new app platform service, which is a solution to build modern cloud native apps. Now, their app platform means that you can scale and build your apps quickly and easily using their intuitive dashboard, using the API, using GitHub, GitLab. All of those things come together to mean that you write the code one time and put it up on a repository, and then there is no more hiring a DevOps guy to go translate your developer into a system administrator and then hiring a system administrator to do none of that. Just log into DigitalOcean, DigitalOcean. Create an account. They have support for Node.js, Python, Go, PHP, Ruby, static sites, Docker, and container images. DigitalOcean runs their own app platform on their own infrastructure, so your costs are significantly lower than with other products. Plus, they built this new app platform on top of DigitalOcean Kubernetes, providing a smoother migration path so you can take control of your infrastructure. Now, it gets even better, because ordinarily you'd have to go and you'd have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to take advantage of all of this. But guess what? As a listener of Destination Linux, we are going to reduce the price to free. You're going to get started for free, better than free, because we're going to give you money to spend. Get that? Listen to the show.
Who's paying for all this? We're giving them money?
DigitalOcean is paying for this because
Man,
they want
those are
to
nice
thank
guys.
the people for listening to the show, and they want to know that those people are getting useful and valuable insight into the Linux community.
Love it.
From
Love
our podcast. So when you listen to Destination Linux, you get $100. You get $100. You can go buy $100 worth of servers. You buy $100 worth of servers, you can make millions of dollars if you do it right. Again, go to do.co/DLN to get started with a $100 free credit on DigitalOcean's new app platform. And a huge thanks to DigitalOcean for continuing to sponsor Destination Linux.
So we've received comments on the videos, on the forums, and emails about tips for using open source in a business method. So whether they wanted to start a business or whether they wanted to apply it to their existing business, they've asked us for a variety of different things related to like financial software, inventory management, point of sale, all sorts of stuff. So we felt it'd be an interesting idea to talk about this in the sense of starting your own business and doing like what could we do to make it a fun experiment to kind of have like an adventure in the idea of not just talking about what the particular types of software there are and that sort of stuff. So we wanted to kind of do, I suppose we'll make a business idea, and the idea we came up with is Jill's Hardware Museum.
So we are starting Jill's Hardware Museum. We're turning this into a business.
Yay!
So we thought it would be fun to combine the skills of our host and completely deck out this imaginary startup using only open source tools. So let's just jump into it. And naturally, we know this is going to be a huge success because it is Jill's Hardware Museum. Because like who wouldn't want to go there and just spend every day checking out all of the awesome hardware that she has? I know I personally would.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be an awesome discovery of what tools people would use here. And when I was going through this, building out Jill's business, it amazed me that every segment I could think of things you would need in a startup, you could cover in open source. But what was more interesting is the amount of money you would save doing a startup. A lot of people now with the economy and things going on are thinking about starting their own business, but those upstart costs can really get you starting in the negative right away. But with open source, you actually have a path to do that for far, far less. So to start an imaginary business, which I hope actually turns into a world business, real business one day, Jill's Hardware Museum, we need, of course, a back office desktop OS that we're all going to use. We need financial software. We need inventory management because we're going to sell penguins. Because Jill, you have too many.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We're going to
Yes.
You have an overflow of penguins.
We're going to need to be able to write office documents. We need our art design and marketing materials we're going to need created. We need a point of sale system because people are going to want the drinks. We're going to have penguin, cups, souvenir cups and stuff that cost $18
and of course,
for soda.
dealing mugs because there's going to have
Absolutely.
all of the coffee and stuff like there. We're going to have our own custom coffee inside of this museum, of course.
That's right. You've got employee internal and external chat system that we're going to need, a website development software, a security system because everyone's going to make sure that nobody takes anything from Jill's museum here, right? We don't want them taking one of your 3,000-pound servers and walking out the front door with it without us knowing that.
Yeah, the PDP 11 or something. You don't want to take that out.
Yeah,
somebody just walk right out with that. Digital signage and backup and database software, of course. Okay, so here's where the fun begins. Jill, since this is your business, you're obviously the CEO. What are some of the software that you thought of here that you would use in your startup?
Well, I've been using Teleco for years to catalog all my computer hardware. It's an awesome open source KDE based software.
Look at that. That's a cool system there.
Yeah. You remember this is my QRIAM I showed on Destination Linux 187 when I was a guest.
Yeah, nice.
Love it.
My little hot rod computer.
For those who are unaware, that was the first ever Jill's treasure hunt. So you definitely check it out.
That was so cool.
And what was the software you said you used to manage the inventory?
Teleco.
Teleco.
It's KDE based cataloging software from everything from movies to comics, and I use it. I have a custom template I use for my hardware.
Nice.
Very nice.
I was thinking, Ryan had some good ideas about this too, but inventory management software for business. I liked rack tables because that made sense for computer hardware business and museum. So I can track all my hardware and all the shelves, and Odoo and Fishbowl for when I make it big.
Of course you are.
And so for those of you out there who don't know, Fishbowl is used by Amazon. So I'm never going to make it that big.
Listen, it's all about attitude.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
Well, when you think about the GameStop stock, when we start selling stock in Jill's museum, we could have like an $800 valuation here,
right,
on our stock price. But
sure.
I was thinking, obviously, for a back office OS, Fedora and lots of Raspberry Pis, and you'll understand why all the Raspberry Pis in a minute. So I'd have all the desktops decked out with Fedora, of course, for our back office staff. The Raspberry Pis we'll use in some of the software I talk about here. But when you talked about point of sale and inventory management, there was a project I found called Unicenta, Unicenta. And this features all kinds of things from your inventory management, your sales management, your employee time management, supply management, barcode scanning integration. So when we're selling all the souvenirs to people here, this was a really cool open source software that I found. And I actually downloaded it to make sure that what they were claiming they could do, you could actually do with this. Very easy interface to get set up. You have some costs and things as you do start adding in add-ons. Of course, they've got to find a way to make money and things on it. But I thought, what a great tool to kick off because it has so many things built in this small business here.
Yeah, and also, that was when I went and looked at Unicenta, I was really impressed, right? That was good pick. Yeah, that will be very helpful. And I also listed Kdenlive because I'm going to need to edit promotional videos and do virtual walkthroughs. We do that at museums. In fact, I've been a curator at a museum before. And so had to take care of
you got a preview on the website, and they can kind of like check it out before they get there, and then like what could you see and what could you experience, and you got to give them a little bit of a taste of that. I like that, and I think Unicenta is pretty interesting, and I also think that there's other options for like a CRM, like there's a bunch of cool CRM stuff. There was one I think that's really interesting. It's called Suite CRM, spelled like hotel suite. But it's really interesting. It's like it's a fork of a really known, like well popular one called Sugar CRM. And a long time ago, Sugar decided to stop being cool and went proprietary. And Suite decided to fork the entire existence of Sugar and create Suite because it's like no, because open source is so fantastic, we're going to keep this a thing, and that is where Suite comes from. So for things are like it has inventory management, contact leads and stuff like that, and it's a very cool thing for. So I'd say in my pick for that sort of stuff in a CRM, like a customer relationship management. For those who don't know what that means, Suite CRM is really cool.
Interesting. And what does a CRM allow you to do? What relationship management system?
Well, it's the main thing is it's a way to organize your leads and your clients, so that you can tell like when you get new customers, you can keep track of like whether they are someone who is a prospect to become a customer or they actually became one, and then you also can associate that to, for example, the inventory structure is be able to associate that for products. Like what that person purchased it, and you can then do reports to see like how many people like this product and that sort of stuff. And that's the reason why the CRM is cool, is because it has this full scale structure of keeping the data that is valuable to like how people are appreciating your services or your products, and then having reports that gives you details about all the different pieces and different variables, however you want to do it, and whether you want to see like how popular a product is or how many customers you have in a particular area or something like that. CRMs are a great way to do that because it's just a good organizational tool, really.
Very nice.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Noah, you have any thoughts here on this section?
The only thing I would add to that is, yes, it helps keep track of sales and make sure things don't fall through the crack. But the other thing it's really good for is we use our CRM all the time to understand where our shortcomings are as a company are, because what it tells us is, hey, this person reached out to us for help. This is how long it took us to get back to them. This is how long it took us to ultimately resolve their issue. This is how many different people were involved. Maybe if we took a different path, and so this person comes in and, that we actually hired somebody over that because we realized that we were missing some smaller stuff. And hey, if we had somebody that was dealing with these level 1 issues and sorting this, that, or the other out, when it gets over here, it would be a much more streamlined process. And so the CRM has helped us wrap our head around that. I'm not sure we would have been able to do that if you couldn't keep track of that kind of productivity inside of software.
Oh yeah, and it's actually it's something that's a great point, and it also is a thing that you can use to see, like, going back to find like customers who you haven't spoken to in 6 months and be able to like reconnect with them and see if there's any help. Like you could just provide a proactive back to our museum thing. Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, why have you not? We got some new hardware. I mean, relatively new because it's a museum, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I will also need an online merch store as well as an in-house museum store with like Michael and Ryan were saying, with lots of plush penguins and t-shirts with my logo on them. And we can use Cafe Press or Teespring, or maybe we have to go to Shopify. that is a thing.
Yeah, that certainly brings down the cost when you're dealing with getting product out there really quickly, is to use somebody who kind of does the direct ship and things like that. Out there, for me in the art and design department, because we're going to want to have some of these t-shirts designed and things. Of course, we'll make Michael do that with all his free time.
Naturally.
I was thinking
before we move on to graphic design, just one other thing, just as far as shops go. Have you ever heard of PrestaShop?
PrestaShop is pretty nice. There's also for those who want a store option, PrestaShop, OpenCart, and also WooCommerce for those who like WordPress.
Perfect.
Those are good options.
Very good, Noah. And what is cool is I already have some retro POS systems we can use. And why not use them? So we don't need to buy those.
Yep.
So our museum's going to use the old point of sale.
Yes,
I like it.
I like it.
Yes, let's do it.
We're legit, we got to show it. And
I love it.
So here is a POS keyboard, with the trackpad on there.
Nice.
And
the POS part cracks me up because it just means something else in my mind. But
point of sale.
Point of sale.
Gotcha. That's it.
Yep. Point of sale.
So this is what your cashiers would use to check out, and with we could use in the store with merch, or a way to take donations, or we might have a fee eventually, a small fee to enter the museum. But I think I want to keep it on a donation basis, so we need a tip jar as well.
Yeah, that sounds
there you go.
But this is actually a vintage POS system made by Liberty. It's actually a Pentium 2. But it is one of the smallest Pentium 2s ever made. So, and there's a lot more special things about this computer, which I was going to show on a future treasure hunt.
Oh, nice. I'm looking forward to that. And also, we're going to be able to store so much on that floppy drive.
Yeah. I did put a much bigger hard drive in it. So
I look forward to that one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, we're going to arm you in our art department. At least I was going to arm you with Krita and GIMP.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those were the tools you were going to use to create our new t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah, I think that I'm happy to use all the options we have. I think Krita, even also Inkscape, I think both of those are fantastic software. So those are great options. And if you want to get into art in terms of open source, you should definitely check out both of those. They are absolutely awesome. So so I'm happy to have more things to do in the museum, Ryan. Thanks.
You're welcome. Now, Noah, I needed your help with this next one because I was thinking about, we're not going to have phone lines that are going to be ringing off the hook and answering questions there. We're going to do our support online because we're a 21st century business here. We need to have online support.
Unless we get some vintage phones, then,
Well, internally, we're going to use Matrix, of course, to communicate to all of our employees and things like that. But can I create a front end where a customer can come onto the website with Matrix and just chat with us without having to log in necessarily? Just come chat and say, hey, I've got an issue. You sold me a ticket, or I bought a ticket outside from the scalper and it's not working. Help.
Or like a live support chat system. That would be cool.
A live support chat. Can you do that with Matrix?
So not today. I shouldn't say that. The technology exists. Of course, you can build something to do it today. The very, very beginnings of that do exist in an internal project that we've been working on that we thought was going to take us 6 months to do. It looks like it's going to take 9 or 12 months to do. But hopefully within the next month or two, that project will be wrapped up, and you will actually see that when you go to asknoahshow.com. You'll actually see the little ability to pop up and join a chat without creating an account. Matrix does not require authentication to send a payload. And so that flexibility in the standard means that it indeed is possible, but you got to make it look nice, and you have to have you have to have some lacquer around it so that it looks and feels the same way that all of the other pop-up chat stuff
Yeah,
works.
you need the lacquer so you don't look like a slacker.
Yeah,
bingo. I like it, and it rhymes,
good,
Michael. I see what you did there. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is certainly a possibility. And the nice thing about that is, again, we're going to tell all of our employees, hey, when Google isn't screwing up, you can go to the Play Store and download our work communication app. And the nice thing is, when customers show up, you don't have to worry because it's just going to pop up, start a new chat with you, and you address it there.
Yeah, and believe it or not, Destination Linux Network is actually a business. I know it's shocking when you see all of these amazing personalities here joking and having fun, but it's a real business. And so we've had to come and deal with a lot of these issues in building out our infrastructure. One of the things we've moved to internally is Matrix. And I would say that our internal communication with everybody who's a part of the network internally and things has improved dramatically since moving to the system. Just being able to get messages and information across and build out different rooms. So I think for this museum business, utilizing Matrix to talk with our employees, see what's going on, what issues they're having, send our security, which will also be Jill out if anybody's getting out of control. We'll have all of that ability to communicate through Matrix right there.
Yep.
Matrix is perfect. And don't forget, we need to hand out live Linux USB drives and or CD drives to our guests.
It's true.
When they leave, so that they can use live Linux on their older machines to keep them running, encourage donating, and keep them out of the landfill. This is necessary.
We should not hand them. You should only hand out drink coasters if they have a drink. Otherwise, you should give them a flash drive.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And of course, it actually has to be Debian based for compatibility to work with all the systems, such as Antix Linux, Ubuntu, Q4OS, or Slacks, or something like that.
If we're talking, find me and I'll give you a Fedora
I'm stuck
USB.
on Fedora. I'm sorry. I can't.
No, I love Fedora too, but it doesn't always work on the older machines.
That's true. That's fair enough.
And there's always Arch as well. Arch does work on old machines as well.
Well,
so far,
Slackware.
Yeah.
Slackware for sure. Arch went to 64-bit as well, so that's gone too.
That is true. You have to run an older Arch.
Now, for our website development staff, which will be Michael again, what we're going to arm Michael with is an Atom IDE. He's going to use Atom because I love Atom.
And then not, but okay.
Yeah, and he's going to use a WordPress site. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
So
those will be the tools you use to develop our website.
All right, cool. Atom is okay. I'm okay with that, I suppose. But WordPress is also good. It actually has gotten a lot better in the recent just year. It's been, it's been around for a long time, and there has been other options like there's Drupal and Joomla, and there's also like static site stuff like Ghost or Grov and things like that. And there's a ton of really cool options for websites, but I've actually sort of recently started getting into WordPress more because of there's a lot of plugins I found that were really cool. But the main thing is that the latest versions of WordPress introduced auto updating of like the system itself has had auto updating for a little while, but they introduced auto updating for themes and plugins, and that is fantastic. So that's something that a lot of people have wanted for a very long time. So you don't have to go in and just click the, update all button. You just automatically set it up. Now, of course, you don't want every plugin to auto update, but the ones that you are familiar, like your premium plugins and stuff like that, those are typically well managed and maintained so the updates won't break anything. So on those cases, that is a great option. So I do think WordPress is getting better and better as it goes on. Originally, I wasn't a fan of WordPress, but now I'm okay with it. I approve of your choice, Ryan.
Nice. Now, digital signage is a thing in that
Yeah,
department, which
definitely.
Michael will also run. We need digital signs to be created.
I'm so
We
useful.
need Raspberry Pis for our digital signage.
Yes, and the software that I used for digital signage on Raspberry Pis is called Screenly. If you guys remember my old studio where the TV in the background would flip all the different images and things of Noah's show and our shows, that was all based on a tool called Screenly, which ran off a Raspberry Pi that was attached to the back of that television. And Screenly ran for years without any issues. And I think it's just a fantastic project for digital signage that we'll have everywhere out there. Yep.
Yeah. And we need actually businesses to promote, to donate old computers to, like Free Geek and
There
Kids on Computers. So
Nice.
we need to, because there's not all the computers, are truly vintage or retro for my museum.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. So we need to donate those to other places that could use them.
Yeah, and we don't want to just trash them, because that's wasting and putting in landfill. And also, there's always something you can do with anything, with any kind of hardware you have. And for example, Jill has shown multiple occasions where she's using something you wouldn't think she would, and she totally is.
Yeah.
Here's my problem so far with Jill's business. Everything's running spectacularly, but Jill's saying we're donation only for our tickets. I think Jill's going to give away most of the drinks. She wants to donate a lot of the hardware. The problem is that Jill is not evil enough to make money off of everything putting in there.
We'll help. We'll help.
Somehow corrupt Jill.
It's an open source museum.
This business, hopefully, thank goodness our upfront costs won't be high, because I'm not sure how long we'll be able to keep the doors open.
Yeah, thank goodness she already has all the stuff to use.
Yeah.
And we don't have to buy point of sale.
Yeah.
$5 for entry. I think that's a nice price to ask.
There you go. Now we're starting to make some money. Now, because there's COVID and things going on, when we first open this museum, we're going to have to do some live tours and stuff instead.
Yes.
So we'll take people around. And of course, we have to use one of the most popular open source tools out there. I would say the standard for live streaming is OBS. So we'll be doing our virtual tours through some OBS.
That also sounds like something I'm going to have to do a bunch of scenes for. So
yes, that's your department as well.
It's reflecting what Michael has to do for the Destination Linux network. Poor Michael.
Actually, that is a reflection of
kind of. I mean, in terms of OBS, the OBS is a good thing for not only just an option for this particular business or any business that needs to do live presentations, because OBS is a little bit heavyweight in terms of what you're going to be like. The barrier to entry is kind of high, but when you want to do you want to take it as far as you possibly can, OBS is the best option for that, because there's tons of plugins, there's tons of features you can do with it, and every single time we do another episode, I come up with new ideas to implement into the show. Just because OBS is that flexible and that powerful, I just never want to stop messing with it, as everybody who's familiar with this show is already aware of. And of course, the hosts have pestered me about not doing so.
Us.
And
us, we're so kind. We give things away.
Well, there's something very important that's very essential that we need. We need lots of active stools for Michael to sit on.
Oh no. We'll have an active stool section that shows the progress of humanity.
Yes,
we used to sit on
the
stools in the
history
Stone
of
Age.
computers through
Why was
active
this not
stools?
considered, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I think, and we wouldn't even have chairs in this museum. It would all be stools. That's the solution, really.
Exactly.
Because you don't want people hanging around, right? You want to get them in and out.
You need that turnover. You need that turnover. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good plan there.
Well, it also helps for social distancing for when we open the doors. We still, we'll probably be having to deal with that. So
move your stool another 3 feet. Get out of my personal space.
Right.
The security system is one I wanted to bring up with Noah. So Noah, I spent the week looking for what a good security system I could run on some Raspberry Pis would be that is open source. I was very, very frustrated by the end of it. ZoneMinder and all these tools that are out there it's like, hey, do you want to build your own security system from scratch and build the database and manage it? And no, I don't. I just want software that turns on a camera and does security stuff. So I came across a project that finally showed me some light at the end of the tunnel called Kerberos. That's KERBEROS.io. I bought an IP camera and a PoE switch so that I could power this up and utilize this software on a Raspberry Pi. Very impressed with this software so far. Good motion detection, alert systems built in so you can notify yourself on different platforms if it's detected. This would be the perfect cheap solution that I found for our security system, but this is actually an area of your expertise. So I wanted to see what you would use here.
I have not been overly impressed, to be honest with you, with what's available in the open source realm. If you can tailor your expectations, and then you can probably get it to work for you. I mean, if the goal is I want to be able to pull cameras up and I want to be able to see them, you can get there. I want to be careful. I want to choose my language carefully here because there's a lot of really hardworking people that do a lot of really good work in the open source community, but there is a standard that gets set. There is a standard of expectation that most people walking around this earth have because of things like the Nest Cam and Honeywell and all the big name manufacturers that come out and do these things. And so essentially, here's what the user expects. They expect to go to the iTunes store or the Play Store. They expect to be able to download an app. They expect to be able to put in a username and password and maybe one other piece of information, but you better make that part easy. And then they expect to see their cameras. And if that experience can't be delivered in an open source way, then you do more harm to open source than good by trying to shoehorn a solution that didn't really belong there in the first place to fit. And so with that context in mind, I have typically gone with Surveillance Station because it ties into your alarm system. It ties into your access control system. So when you beep the door, when you authenticate through the door, it automatically logs as that person is able to go in, disarms the security system, flags that in the camera recording. So you know, hey, that person, this is when that person went in. If we need to go back and look, hey, when did so-and-so come through the door? We go back, we click on that individual, and then we can see the camera, we can see the access control system, what doors they went through, when they went through the man trap, that kind of thing. All of those things are possible today with Surveillance Station. You buy the equipment, you can buy Surveillance Station. It just comes with any Synology NVR, or NAS. And then on top of that, you have the opportunity to buy the licensing for additional cameras, which are lifetime licenses. So once you own them, even if Synology goes out of business tomorrow, all of my Surveillance Stations will continue to work. So I look at that and I say to myself, that's a reasonable compromise. It works entirely on Linux. It is Linux. Synology is Linux. It's just not open source Linux. And it works better than anything out there currently does. And and anything that's proprietary for me is always a placeholder. So the second that something comes up that is better or even gets to the point, I saw Blue Cherry is releasing a mobile app in the next few weeks. When they get there, we will evaluate it.
There you go.
But nice.
I've got to go with what works.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kerberos.io is the only one out of, I came across multiple ones, including Blue Cherry and others, and I would start to install them and just go, what am I doing? I don't want to build the security system software myself. I just want it to run. Kerberos was the only one that was actually close to that experience where you can basically put it on a micro SD card, stick it in your Raspberry Pi, and with a few short settings, you are up and running with a camera online that you can view and control that camera and do recordings and change your motion detection areas. And it had a lot of the features that I think for a small business, you could utilize this software for sure. But I think you're 100% right, Noah. After exploring this world, I was thoroughly disappointed with the solutions out there because I don't want to do all of the setup and spend 4 hours writing magical incantations to get a camera to link. I just want it to work. So check out Kerberos.io, though, if you're interested in playing with the Raspberry Pi and some IP cameras, because this probably will be a permanent setup, actually, that I'll use in my home for right now. The chat and our patrons are talking about we need some security here, specifically Libra Swan for IPsec VPN.
Oh,
so
yes.
is that a good recommendation for everyone there?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, there's
Awesome.
There's also some other comments about the security aspects of being able to block outside interference and attacks and that sort of stuff. And a great option for that is CrowdSec, and that is a really interesting suggestion. And in addition to that, there's also an episode of the Sudo show where they interviewed the CEO of CrowdSec. So you definitely want to check that out because it's a very interesting interview, and we'll have that linked in the show notes as well.
And of course, we need backup and databases running in the background. And Noah made me a huge fan of this. I can't get away from it. FreeNAS, that's what you got to use for all of that stuff in the background. So that was my recommendation for that.
FreeNAS is really good.
FreeNAS is awesome, and we can just use I can just use one of the computers I already have for that.
Perfect. I like this. They consolidate. Use what you got. So another thing you want to do for the business, and I think that backups are something we should talk about in the sense of, we talked about FreeNAS, and that's the place to put the backups, but what software do you use to make those backups? And there are plenty of those. We have a lot of options on Linux, which is awesome, and some of them have fun names like Borg Backup or Bacula or Deja Dupe. Those are fun.
Yeah.
There's also Restic. It's another great option. There's actually a tutorial about how to use Restic on frontpagelinux.com, so check that out. We'll link that in the show notes as well. And there's also ways to do stuff like, if you want to build out your own backup system, there's also rsync, so you can build out this whole backup system if you want to. But I would say check out the other options like Deja Dupe. Yeah, Deja Dupe is a fun name. I really like that. There's also Your Backup and some other stuff. So check those out. We'll have those links in the show notes as well.
Michael will be running that department as well.
I mean, I'll set it up and then just hope it goes well. But, that's about that.
Or we can require Michael to use part image for everything.
I like it. Yes.
Right?
So we have nailed it all then. We are ready to open this business. We have our security in place. We have cameras in place. We have digital signage, websites, all that being done by Michael, point of sale systems, art and marketing, inventory management. Again, all handled by Michael. Office document writing. Of course, we did. I don't think we covered the office document writing. I mean, this one should be for anybody in Linux should know. We use Nextcloud for file storage,
a calendar.
It has Deck built in for project management. We use that as a business today. So that would be what I would go for on the office document writing. Anybody have any other thoughts on that one?
LibreOffice for local.
There you go.
It's on all the Linux distros.
Yep. Good stuff. So I think we've nailed it all. We have our business.
You can also make a LibreOffice work on Nextcloud and stuff like that too, so you can have like the collaborative aspects of it. But but you were talking about how we have everything ready to go, so I think that's true in terms of the software side. We might need to work on business licenses, location for the stuff. There's a little bit more that
needs that.
Real estate.
The real estate's your house, Joe.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess so. I could add on another studio. That would help.
We could use your kitchen to make the food and stuff we hand out. So save us lots of money.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of great options here for people who are wanting to look into making their own business and that sort of stuff. So it's possible. I think that we covered every facet, but it's possible that we missed something. And if we did, be sure to leave a comment and let us know, and we will put it in the show notes to let people know about the other options that are available in the various different situations in terms of like what types of software they need and that sort of stuff. And if there's anything that we didn't mention on the topics we already covered and the categories we already covered, be sure to leave that message as well.
My job is to greet the guests.
That seems so much easier. I want that job. Let's trade.
No. Jill's Hardware Museum's a go. Yeah. We're going to be filthy rich if Jill doesn't give it all away.
That is the task. This episode of Destination Linux is brought to you by Bitwarden. Get started right now with your free account at bitwarden.com/DLN. A password manager is software that allows you to have peace of mind knowing that your online accounts are secure. So how does it do this? Well, securing your online accounts is very important because the best security practices for passwords is to have a different password for every account on every website that you sign up to. And sure, that makes sense as a policy, but without a password manager, that's a kind of a painful thing to do. And Bitwarden solves this, providing a bunch of tools for storing your passwords in a secured vault, auto-generating those passwords for you, and even automatically filling in those passwords on login forms so you don't have to, which is fantastic. And you can access your data across many types of devices, like your web browser, using your mobile apps, maybe using a desktop application, or even the command line if you want to do that. And Bitwarden seals all of this data in the private data by doing end-to-end encryption before it ever leaves your device, so you know that you're the only person who has access to that data. And also, if you want to give access to other people and maybe in a emergency experience situation or a critical circumstance, they have a new emergency access system that allows you to give someone the ability to do that, making it like
this is so important. This is huge.
So
for somebody who has a family, if something was to happen to me and my wife needed to get into all of the different financial accounts and things like that, or just various passwords to tell people what's happening, what this system does is it allows me to set somebody else as a, I guess you would call them a proctor or something to my account. And once, if they initiate that, once they have set that up and decided that they're going to be the proctor, if they initiate that, it gives me 2 days, or I can set the amount of days that I want to be able to go in and access and tell it to stop, don't give that person access, or then it will allow them into the account so they would have those passwords and things so that they could continue taking care of things if something was to happen and I wasn't around. It's such an important service that they added here, and I just want to thank them for adding it because it's huge. You never know what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah, that is a very awesome thing to add. And also, they added something else that's really cool that a lot of people have been wanting, and that's being able to use biometric authentication. So fingerprint, face recognition, and some other stuff. It's just very cool, and they added that as well just recently, along with the emergency access. It's so awesome to be able to use a piece of software and have it being open source. I mean, that's right. It's 100% open source software, and they just continue to make it even more awesome, which is just, I love to see that kind of thing. And in addition to being open source, they also do third-party security audits where they hire security firms to audit their code to make sure it is as safe as possible for you to use. And that is another fantastic thing about Bitwarden. So go to bitwarden.com/DLN to get started with your free account. But I think you want to check out the premium account because there's so much cool stuff in there, and it only starts at less than $1 per month. That's right. Less than $1 per month will get you 1 gigabyte of encrypted file storage, 2-step login with YubiKey, U2F, Duo, the emergency access features, the Vault Health reports, Bitwarden Authenticator, primary customer service, and so much more. You get all this for less than $1 per month. So make the smart move like many from the DLN community have and go to bitwarden.com/DLN. This lets you get peace of minds for your password and other sensitive data while also supporting a company that truly gets open source. You can show that your appreciation for them supporting open source and supporting the Destination Linux podcast. Go to bitwarden.com/DLN and get started. And thanks again to Bitwarden for sponsoring Destination Linux.
Okay, this is really cool. So last week on Destination Linux, we talked about what is the decentralized Fediverse and why does it matter? Well, this week, there is a new decentralized social media app that has popped up on our radar called Movim, Movim, and it means My Open Virtual Identity Manager. And it is a social and chat platform that is built on top of the XMPP network.
I feel like I've heard about XMPP before. I feel like this has been around.
Yes, it has. So XMPP is a popular open standards communication protocol, which allows you to exchange with other clients on all devices, such as with conversations on Android or Dino or Pigeon on the desktop.
Yeah, there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of jabber around this too. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of social media companies use this in the past. Facebook used to use this. Sure. Google used to use this. Apple used to use this. Now, why did they go away from it if it's good? Or was it because they wanted to lock everybody in to just their protocol and they didn't want other APIs and services reaching out to
Probably the latter.
Second one? I think you nailed it.
Probably
yes.
Okay, that's what happened. All right.
Yeah. And it's really awesome because, again, Movim is fully compatible with the most used XMPP servers, such as eJabbered or Prosody. I think I'm saying that right.
I've not heard of that one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it either. So that is one that's there.
Yep.
And personally, I actually had fun playing with Movim, and I installed it via F-Droid on Android and joined a few of the Linux chat rooms. And it was really cool. It has a sleek, clean, and responsive interface, and it reminds me a lot of a cross between Matrix and Mastodon, for sure.
Interesting. Like it looks pretty cool, and I think that the functionality it offers is really interesting. And in terms of like using XMPP to do all of this stuff, like I knew it could do some of it, but I didn't know it could do as much as that they were using it for, which is really cool. Because XMPP has been around for a long time, and it's been used in a variety of ways. There's even you could use it for encrypted messages, because you can just use encryption what's it called, OTR. Yeah, you can use OTR and send that through XMPP, and it works just great like that. So there are so many options and stuff like for the overall XMPP protocol. But this Movim thing does look very nice, and it looks very modern. And to have a modern experience on top of XMPP, I think that's quite cool.
It was very easy to sign up for. They have chat rooms, of course, ability to organize video conferences. So they have that built in, publish articles publicly to all the federated networks, tweak the privacy settings of your posts, talk with other Movim users across different clients, embed links, explore topics with hashtags, which we know has become a thing. You got to have the hashtags in a good social media site. Ability to follow a topic or publication, auto-saving drafts, supports Markdown.
Very cool.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You have the GIFs and funny stickers and edit, delete messages, screen sharing support, self-hosting option available. They kind of went through the gamut of all the features. If you were to say, I want to create an alternative to something like a Facebook, and I want it to be completely open source and decentralized, they really checked all the boxes here, I think, with this.
And there's also some other unique features. One is it has a built-in drawing program. I was playing with that. So you can send a nice drawing in chat or customize your pictures before sharing them. And I thought that was, very helpful. And
that is cool.
Loved it.
One of our patrons said GIF is all we care about. And that's
No. GIF is what we care about. GIF is what we care about.
GIF. It's just like GIF, the peanut butter.
But it's called graphic, therefore it's a GIF. So, so that debate will never end, and I'm okay with that because it's always GIF. But anyway,
the guy said it was GIF. The guy who invented it said it was GIF, and there's still a debate.
Well, he said still be wrong.
Actually, he said it was GIF. Unfortunately, he said it was GIF, and that's why the problem.
Right. The wrong way. He says it wrong.
He says it the wrong way. That's the problem. Is he was wrong about his own thing. So that's
peanut butter. He's mistaken.
He actually said he did that as a practical joke later when I heard an interview with him.
Really?
Well,
he knew it was graphics interchange.
Well, he needs to come back and fix that so we can end that debate once and for all.
Yes, he does.
But anyway, there are a lot of cool things about this particular application. And I just want to make sure everybody is aware that there is something else that it has that is very important that every application should have, and that is dark mode. Thank you. Dark mode.
Thank you.
Always
Michael.
make it dark mode.
Well, choosy moms choose GIF.
Wow.
I was also impressed that you can create your own blog easily by making any of your posts public on the federated network, which was really cool. I was playing with that. I took some of the tweets we have here on the Destination Linux network, and I put them in there, and then wanted to see how easy it was to make a blog out of them, and it's just one click.
Very cool. I didn't know we could do that. I just thought it was a chat message. I didn't know we could do like a public, like a kind of like a Mastodon sort of thing. That's interesting.
It was amazing.
So go check this thing out. It might be a good social network to hang out and support. Movim, MOVIM.eu. Something to check out there. Another thing to check out is our gaming section, in which we are going to be covering a sci-fi cyberpunk game. There can never be, in my mind, enough cyberpunk games out there in the world. This one, though, is more relaxed and laid back because it's a point-and-click adventure set in a dystopian future with very unique and beautiful, I think, art style was done in this game. So definitely not pixelated or old art looking. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. It was released on January 26th. It has native Linux support, which is the most important
Day one.
Yes.
Native Linux support. This is awesome.
Absolutely beautiful soundtrack in the background. And again, this is something you could kind of play in a relaxed environment. You don't have a bunch of chaos and things going on. It's more of that click and point adventure. And the storyline is Neo Berlin 2062. Tina, a 9-year-old orphan, lives with Sam 53, her big clumsy robot guardian, in a rooftop makeshift shelter in Neo Berlin. A dark megalopolis. Megalopolis, is that right?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, megalopolis.
Sure.
Controlled
Megalopolis.
by corporations, evil corporations.
Oh,
And
no.
So, yes.
We have
Yes,
to. We
it's
have to help
true.
them. We have to help them
Yeah.
with those evil corporations in the megalopolis.
Yeah. You can go to one good corporation in the game, which is Jill's Museum, and get help.
Fantastic. I also want a big clumsy robot guardian. Just saying. I want
Don't we
Yes.
all? So if you're into Cyberpunk and looking for a story-driven adventure, check out Encodya. That's Encodya out there on Steam right now.
Nice. And also check out the Spotlight this week, because the Spotlight is Speedcrunch. Because why use a basic calculator when you can have a high precision scientific calculator with fast
Yes.
keyboard driven user interface? Of course, you absolutely should do that, because you don't want a standard calculator app. You want stuff like has features like on the fly calculations. Speedcrunch displays results as you type them, and it selects a partial. You can select a partial expression and then do the calculation automatically on just what you select. Very awesome. And there's also a scrollable history that you can easily reference things with customizable syntax highlighting, so you can quickly spot any miscalculations. And if you prefer a GUI method, they have an optional on-screen keypad for those as well. And Speedcrunch comes with over 80 built-in mathematical functions, so you can also define your own functions as well to make even more. And it's got a bunch of other really cool features, including auto-completion, which allows you to speed up your task, which is a very cool feature in a calculator, because auto-completion is if you've done a terminal command line and stuff like that, auto-completion is fantastic, and everything should have it that requires typing. I love auto-completion, but having a calculation that it can kind of complete your equations, very cool. It's also fully keyboard friendly, and it has a lot of keyboard shortcuts to speed up the task and stuff like that. So check it out. Speedcrunch, link in the show notes.
And I was thinking this would be great to give to our accounting department, aka Michael, for our Jill's Museum business.
No.
More responsibility.
No, that's okay. Responsibility is one thing. I'm fine with doing design and website stuff, and that's okay, fair enough. But accounting, that is a mistake to have me in charge.
But you'll have Speedcrunch to help you do the math.
It doesn't matter how fast I can crunch the numbers. Me crunching the numbers is not a good idea.
All right. We'll have to find somebody else for
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
If you've been following our tips and tricks the past few weeks, then you know that we have been exploring Git. Now, Git is a very popular and very universal way to synchronize software development config files, a bunch of different things you can use Git for. Well, this week, we're continuing the exploration of Git commands. You should be aware to get started with this powerful tool. So there are many facets of Git and tons of tips and tricks that you can leverage with this tool. Now that you've experienced some of the more basic commands with Git, we'll dig into where you can find more information. You can do that with Git help. You can do Git help tac G. This will give you available guides for Git that will help you if you get stuck or if you want to learn something new. Once you find a guide that you want to explore, simply type Git help and then the name of the guide. So for example, Git space help / attributes. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Git and you are a little confused, we invite you to go back through previous weeks and check out the previous things that we've gone through with Git. They start right from the beginning.
So if you want to get help, then use Get Help.
Get help.
And get it done.
There you go.
And get it done.
So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. And if you want more DL, become a patron like all of these beautiful people here with us now and get a bunch of perks like unedited versions of the show, VIP access to events, live recordings of Destination Linux every Sunday, and they get to hang out in the super secret back room that nobody else gets to see.
The recording stadium.
And they get to hang out for the after show, which is where we get more loony and crazy than we are in the actual show, believe it or not.
Yeah, you don't believe that it's possible. It is possible. And in addition, guys, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're now live on dlnlive.com. The best part is everyone is invited to watch during the recording every week. How did I do?
You did really good. You just forgot your bubble.
Hold on. Go right now to dlnstore.com and pick up some swag. We have t-shirts, hoodie, mugs, and yes, stickers.
Perfect.
You'll especially want to get a mug and hold a spice, aka
no.
coffee.
How dare you?
You can look like a pro while reading your official DLN news and official source, Front Page Linux. Nothing goes better with open source articles than a good cup of Joe on my stool. How'd I do?
I mean,
you did.
It was close. It was close,
perfect.
but you didn't pronounce the properly. But it was close. It was close.
And
Are we going to keep that?
we should keep it. And we have so many amazing shows here on the Destination Linux Network. We have the Sudo Show, the Ask Noah Show, This Week in Linux, the DOS Geek Channel, DLN Extend, Hardware Addicts, and get your game on with our latest show, GameSphere with Chris Ware. So go to destinationlinux.network and subscribe to all these shows to keep those penguins marching and the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
I can't believe we're going to keep that. All right, everybody have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
We did it.
Yes.